I push ready to go live. All right. All right, everybody. Welcome to the PSB Odyssey, Helping Hands for Cruise-a-thon show here. I'd like to thank y'all for stopping by. What we're doing today, we're doing something a little different.
You want to see the world, but something always holds you back. You got that itching feeling, but your dreams got hijacked. There's lots of people out there that never get to cruise, but Helping Hands is helping making dreams come true.
Helping Hands for cruising, cruising. Helping Hands for cruising, cruising. Helping Hands for cruising, making your dream a reality.
You know you gotta do the things you've only dreamed about. Don't let anything stop you thinking you can't go all out. You can do the things you never thought were possible with Helping Hands to help you get there. Even oceans are no obstacle. You wanna see the world, but something always holds you back. You got that itching feeling, but your dreams got hijacked. There's lots of people out there that never get to cruise, but Helping Hands is helping making dreams come true.
Helping Hands for cruising, cruising. Helping Hands for cruising, cruising. Helping Hands for cruising, making your dream a reality.
So if you ever dreamed about taking a cruise in one of them big old boats, soaking up that sun, feel that breeze, yeah, there is still hope. Don't let the ocean be an ocean that is out of reach. Let's get together, help each other, and go see the sea. You wanna see the world, but something always holds you back. You've got that itching feeling, but your dreams got hijacked. There's lots of people out there that never get to cruise, but Helping Hands is helping making dreams come true.
Helping Hands for cruising, cruising. Helping Hands for cruising, cruising. Helping Hands for cruising, making your dream a reality. Helping Hands for cruising, cruising. Helping Hands for cruising, cruising. Helping Hands for cruising, making your dream a reality.
Are we on?
We're live and in
Sorry about that. I forgot I told my producer that we was going to start off with the video. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the PSB Odyssey, Helping Hands for Cruise-a-thon here. We're doing something a little different than everybody else is. I'm a huge radio fan. I happen to have two friends here that have radio DJ and radio industry experience. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little interview with them. Got some simple questions for them. We're trying to see how, just their experiences in radio, maybe give us a little background, a little behind the scenes stuff on how stuff actually works, because we got a pretty good feeling there's quite a bit goes in from them sitting at a desk talking into a microphone into you hearing it on your radio. So without further ado, and y'all can just jump in however you want to on these. I got about 6 questions, but some of them are 4 or 5 part. First of all, what got you started in radio?
Go ahead, Aaron. I'll let you go first.
Okay, well, I've been familiar with radio quite a bit in my life. My dad was in radio. Now, not like the WKRP theme song, like town to town, packing and unpacking, not like that. No, he did radio the smart way. He got a real job and did radio as kind of like a hobby. And he was a sportscaster. He didn't spin the wheels of steel or anything like that. He was a sportscaster. He did color for our local high school football and basketball games. He did a weekly sportscast on the radio. He was an insurance agent, and he even cut his own ads to put on the radio. So I've had a little bit of exposure for quite a while. I also had a friend who got a job at the radio station too during the high school years, and that's really something. So I've hung out at the radio station a lot. When I went to college, I went into the training class at their radio station. I didn't do a regular shift through the term, but I did do a couple of shifts during finals week when they run 24 hours a day. And after college, and though that magic piece of paper didn't come through with the real big money like everybody says that it would, I wound up getting into a program sponsored by the state to give help for job hunters. And my radio pass came out, and they just happened to have a 1 lung, 1 kilowatt AM radio station that participated in this, providing training for people. And that's how I got into the professional side. I started out trying to sell and work the board, and the sales didn't work out too good. Well, at least for me anyway. They was working out pretty good for the station because Bill, who was the linchpin of the station, kept keeping the thing going. He would spend a lot of time during the Christmas season beforehand buried in the production room, making all those spots that I was wedging songs in between. So I spent a lot more time on the board. And then when the new year came, the money from the state that helped keep me there didn't come, and there was no revenue from outside that was keeping me there. So I was on the street. But a couple of months later, I was up on the mountain in Crossville at their oldest radio station, WAEW. And I worked for 3 years there. We played country music and as much Southern gospel as I could sneak in. And I did the heavy lifting stuff. I did the stuff that a lot of people think is just incredible as far as talking on the radio goes. I'm talking about things like the obituary report and juggling phone calls and reading stuff on a trading post program, church chat. So I've done quite a bit of mic work up there. I wound up going back to that old radio station. Excuse me as I drank after about 3 years up there. And and it wasn't quite the same because they had an FM station that they acquired, and they spent a little bit more time on the FM than they were on the AM. And we wound up going to full automation, and it took several years to make that happen, but it eventually happened. And so now, as I'm so fond of saying, in a former life, I used to make my living talking on the radio.
Oh, excellent, excellent. I guess I should introduce y'all, ladies and gentlemen. The gentleman who was just speaking to you was the one and only Double A, Mr. Aaron Smith. And next up is Mr. Greg Welch of SCT Adventures fame, the guy that sits beside Miss Felicia on Friday nights. Team hashtag Team White Hat. All right, Mr. Greg, if you would indulge us, please, sir.
Yeah, I don't have the white hat. I could have worked for you, Paul, but I don't think it had the same effect. But I got started because we're growing up, man. I loved the radio growing up, and I would call in for every contest they had, tried to win things, stay up all night, and be the fifth caller and all that sort of thing. And then going. I knew I was going to go to school for an electronics degree, which that was a degree back in the late 80s, early 90s. And so our local radio station in town, we had a little FM station. I thought, well, what better place to get some experience before I go off to school would be the radio station. So I just one day walked into the lobby of the radio station, and the owner of the radio station, his name was Wendell Lovett. He was sitting behind the control room, and he motioned me into the control room, and I walked in there, and I told him, I said, hey, I want to go to school for electronics. I thought this might be a good place just to get some experience. And he said, well, we need somebody on Saturdays from noon to 6 o'clock, sit in here and some on Sundays. And so I was hired on the spot, and he showed me how to run the board and everything. And I ran on Saturdays, I ran something back then was the American Country Countdown. It came in on a 4 CD set, and I would sit there, and the console we had back in the day had a live section to the console and an auxiliary section, and it would come in on 4 CDs. And back then we had a cassette deck where you could actually, we had hour-long cassettes, and I figured out how I could play 1 hour of the CD, like hour 1, and record hour 3, and then play hour 2 and record hour 4 on cassettes. And so then I worked smarter, not harder. And so by the time hour 3 got there, I was on cruise control because I had recorded hour 3 with the commercials and everything already into it. So I just popped it in the tape player and let it play. And then I would leave until one day I was at the house getting a shower. And for some reason, the tone that was generated by the American Country Countdown cut the transmitter off while I was in the middle of the shower. And I had to make a break for it back to the radio station and cut the transmitter on. But But while I was working there at the AM station, they also owned an FM station called WSLE FM, Whistle 102. And they played adult contemporary music, the best hits of back then it was best hits of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And they called me one day and asked me would I take the 6 to midnight shift Monday through Thursday. They had somebody for Friday nights, and I said sure. So I was working Saturday and Sunday at the AM station, and Monday through Thursday 6 to midnight there, and it was just awesome. Loved every minute of it. And so I did that for several years until automation came in and took over the FM station, and I worked with the engineer because, of course, I was going to school for electronics at the time, and we were in there soldering and doing all these sorts of things. I helped install the computer and mount the satellite dish and everything else, and eventually that took over our jobs, and we went automated with the FM station, and I helped install the system that took away my job at the radio station. But yeah, it was fun. I miss it.
Been there, done that.
Mhm.
I trained my
Well,
replacement too.
that sounds about as bad as me. I drive a truck for a living. I kept hauling these loads down to Otay Mesa, California, just outside of San Diego. Come to find out, I was moving a factory out of a town about 30 miles from me that I was hauling product out for. I was actually this time was hauling machinery stuff so they could go open a plant in Mexico. But okay, you both said that you grew up listening to radio and all. Do you have a favorite program you remember from as a child, or does like a certain DJ in your area or that you can pick up nationally? Does it stick in your mind?
I remember Casey Kasem. I mean, Casey Kasem, every Sunday I remember listening to the top 40 with Casey Kasem, and that was just that was what I listened to every weekend.
I don't know if I really have one. I think I've got just more like just growing up with the local radio. The live and local radio kind of resonated with me.
Okay, cool. I don't know if y'all saw the thumbnail for this. I actually have Casey Kasem on there, Alan Freed, and I don't know that he was. I don't guess you'd call him a DJ, but he was a radio personality, or had a radio program. One of my favorites of all time, the legendary Paul Harvey. I thought he was about as good a person to ever be on the radio, and of course the one and only Wolfman Jack, because he was just killer. He's on that movie American Graffiti. I'm sure y'all seen that.
Yes.
Okay, now you got to tell off on yourselves.
Okay.
Did you have an alter ego or a what do you call it, on-air persona?
I'm gonna say no. I even used my regular name and I just laid it out there. That's pretty much all I did.
I didn't either. And looking back on it, I wish I had there because my name sounded stupid on the radio, and so I don't need anything from you, Captain, in the chat. But no, I wished, looking back on it, I wasn't that smart. I was a dumb teenager, not 17, 18 years old. But I always wished I'd went back and used my first and middle name, which was Michael Gregg, and I thought that would have sounded cooler than Greg Welch did. But for some reason, I never did use it. The guy that came on before me on the FM station, our station manager, we used to drive him nuts because we were adult contemporary station. He didn't like talking on the air. He hated talking. He wanted minimal talk. Less talk, more music was the motto. And I would come in, and the guy that was on before me, his name was Shad Stipe. And he had the coolest, that was his name, Shad Stipe. And it was just a cool name. And he was the coolest DJ in the world. He did noon to 6, and I would come in right after him, and I would cruise in about 30 minutes before my shift, and I'd get into the studio, and we'd get on there about 15 minutes before, and we would yuck it up on air, and it drove the station manager nuts. He would get so mad, but people would call in, and they loved the banter back and forth between me and him. But no, I wish I had a cool name, but Shad did.
What did you like best about working in the radio industry as a whole, or just about being the DJ?
I was a terrible DJ. I'm gonna be honest with you. It was so awkward for me to talk on air. The thing I liked the most about it was the technical side of it. I actually loved mixing the music to try to make those smooth transitions. Now it's all computer. Everything's loaded in the computer. The system, I mean, I've gone back and filled in a time or two during football games and stuff like that and ran the system where everything's loaded, preloaded. You preload your commercials, and Aaron can remember this too. I'm sure all our commercials back then were on 8-track cart machines. And so, the way our system was set up was we had a chart and we played so many songs, and then you had all your commercials that you had to play. And so we loaded these cart machines up, and you had to come out of your songs and hit those carts just a time. And then you had at the top of the hour, you had to play your station IDs, and then you had to play station IDs at other times of the hour. And you had all these things that you had to time just right, plus coming in and out of, and all of I was during the CD era, and I'm sure the albums and the records, the 45s had it on it too, but it had your intro timing on it. So you had to pay attention to your intro times. And so timing all that stuff and making smooth transitions were just, it was not the easiest thing in the world. And that's what I loved most about it, was just making it so that if you were listening out there in your car or on your radio or whatever, that it was seamless. I want to say it was an art to make one song lead into another and have commercials and everything without dead air and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. And, going back to my college days, I was on the radio at a very, very interesting time, because there were two guys that were in charge of the two students. They were Jay Joyce and Ed Fryer. And they had this wacky idea that we could actually compete with big commercial stations as far as putting out a radio product. And so they stressed, tight board, no dead air, professionalism. We crack the mic open, have something to say, and say it in a professional manner. And they really stressed that stuff. And I like to think that maybe somewhere there's somebody that was on the air there at the WTTU during those days that actually got a job in radio as thankful for that. And we played, Billboard 100 music, which is, for a college station in the 1980s is pretty crazy, because back in those days, pretty much college radio was trying to channel this station out of New York, this little hole in the wall radio station that is pretty much responsible for breaking new wave music to the United States. That's pretty much what they were going for. Music like Depeche Mode and the Smiths, and music like that. And here we are playing Billboard 100 music. It was insane. So yeah, there's definitely a big stress on professionalism for sure. And it was kind of very unusual for college.
All right. Well, like the radio stations you worked at, were any of them like really high power? Like, at least, I don't know if you'd say, I don't know, FM, it's hard to be regional, isn't it? It ain't like the good old AM days where you could, hit half the United States. But I guess what would be the biggest reach of a radio station you worked at?
All my radio time, professional radio time, was on one kilowatt AM radio stations. The one that I was at the most is on the far right hand side of the dial at 1590 AM, and the other one up in Crossville was a little bit further up. It was at 1330 on the AM dial, but but when you get into that neighborhood, it can be kind of hard to get out as far as AM. Now, of course, what you're talking about, as far as AM, you're talking about, the clear channel stations. You're talking about, if it's got 3 letters in the call sign and it's got 3 digits in the frequency and no decimal, it's AM, remember? Then you're talking about a station that can get out there. I mean, it can get out there normally, and then at night they can power up even more. You know, like the Air Castle of the South, WSM 650, or down there in New Orleans, WWL is another big, loud, powerful station, and WLS up in Chicago, there was another one. So some AM station, if you can get the power, it can go out a long ways, and FM can get out there pretty good too, as far as being on line of sight. But some of that is, well, yeah. I'm just kind of floundering now. Sorry about that, but have I answered your question?
Yes, sir.
Ours, I'm not sure how strong the AM station was that we were on. It it wasn't a very strong AM station that we had. The FM station that I worked at was a massive 5,000 watts. I think we got out just past the parking lot. And so if you rode by the highway, you could pick us up in front of the station. But now we probably covered a couple of counties, 2 or 3 counties down here, but we were in competition with the 100,000 watt stations around here. So it was hard. I kid you not. My 6 to midnight, there were times literally that I would say something like, "I'll take caller number 5 for a free sub from Subway," and literally the phone would not ring for 30 minutes, and you'd be like, "Okay, there's no one listening right now."
Everybody was calling at once. They were jamming the board up. That's what it was.
What it was,
Crash the system.
there back then. You got to understand, back in the early 90s, there were so many stations. You didn't have these young whippersnappers today. They don't understand that the only place to get music back then wasn't an iPod. It wasn't on your phone. It was
No, sir.
Is where you heard music. And so when you have 3 stations on the dial playing the same thing, and a couple of them are 100,000 watts, a little 5,000 watt station like ours, unless you're just dedicated to that station. And keep in mind too, our station signed off at midnight. We were still signing off at midnight and signing back on at like 5 a.m., 5 or 6 a.m., whatever it was. It wasn't 24 hours. So we were going up against 24-hour stations back then. I would sign off every night at midnight. I played The Lion Sleeps Tonight. That was my sign-off song every night right at midnight. But yeah, so it wasn't massive, but it was still fun to do it.
Yeah. That's
But did you do the national anthem after that, or was it just?
No, I didn't do it at midnight. I'm sure they did it at sign on every day.
Oh, and Greg, the FM stations that I didn't work on them, but the FM stations that were with the company, the one up in Crossville did exactly like yours did. It would sign off around midnight, but the one down in Cookville that the company acquired, and when I was able to make my way back down there, well, they broadcast 24 hours. So, but like I said, the one up in Crossville did just like yours did.
They have since sold that station. Of course, all the stations get bought out. And I think that station now is 100,000 watts. And I think I could be speaking out of turn, but I had heard rumors that they sold just the license. The owners of the station sold just the license. They didn't sell the equipment or anything because licenses are so hard to come by these days. But the AM station is now broadcasting on an FM frequency. So the AM station's still there.
I know our local AM station is kind of simulcasting, I guess, on an FM frequency.
Yeah, that's what ours, I think, is doing now, too.
Okay. Seems to be the thing to do.
Well, I know. They said from driving a truck, I drove a lot of late night stuff, and of course, that was always. I hate fidgeting with the radio going down the road, so I'd always find me a good. What you talked about AM that could really reach out there. You mentioned 2 good ones, Chicago, of course, and Fort Worth for that WBAP, I think it is. You could listen to the Midnight Cowboy on it out of Fort Worth. And the one out of Cincinnati, I think it's like 710 AM. And, of course, then there's 1200 down in San Antonio. That joker, at one time, it was like a fire stick. I mean, you could hear it all over the place on good, clear nights. I lost my place here, y'all. Forgive me.
No, it's still fun. While you find that, it's still fun. I used to do it and hadn't done it in a long time, but it was fun to go out to the car at night, late at night, and just turn on the AM dial and just kind of scroll and just see what you could pick up, see what was skipping around, because
Yeah.
people today don't realize, or the young people today don't realize how far those AM stations can skip and travel, when the sky is clear late at night like that.
It's a
I
whole
know
new
my
world, kids.
grandparents, they lived in South Central Arkansas, where I'm at, give or take 50, 60 miles. And it had to be a real good, clear Saturday night for them to get Nashville. And of course, the Grand Ole Opry, but we're not straight line, maybe 100 miles from Shreveport. So they could get that Louisiana hayride. I mean, just because that was before TV and all, too. If you had a radio inside your house, I mean, you were somebody, let alone one in the car or whatever. But, okay, here we go. What would you say was the most challenging part for you to learn when you started in the radio industry? I mean, was it like, did you have any nervousness about getting on air for the first time, or?
I mean,
That's
that was a little
probably
nervous.
it.
Yeah.
Maybe just a few little bit of nerves, like your first time. But as far as a lot of the technical stuff, well, one of the things that they did in the college training class was they put you on the Cars debut album, side number 2. And as far as DJing goes, that's like Navy SEAL training at Coronado Beach, because all those songs are awesome. All those songs can be heard on radio, and all those songs bleed one right into the other. So, getting that queued up and stopping it when it's time to stop, it's a challenge. But but I haven't really had a lot of problem apart from like maybe some nerves. But as far as the technical thing about working the wheels of steel, that's not too bad. It's not too difficult.
Yeah, production was difficult too. I mean, back then, it's like I said, not like today. I mean, I've got a little studio here in my computer, and a little recording studio, and the things we can do with it, cutting and pasting and all that to create stuff. Back then, you had to rifle through tons and tons of sound effects to try to put together. If a customer wanted a commercial with clapping or a creek sound or birds chirping or something like that. And to keep in mind, our mixing console in the production room only had, I forget how many tracks it had, 4 or 6 tracks, and then you had to kind of mix all that stuff and record it. It was a totally different beast. And then you had to run that by. There were several times we ran commercials by. We got creative. Shad and I did. We got creative with different customers, and we'd come up with this great idea for a commercial and run it by a customer, and they'd be like, nah, that's not what we were really looking for. So then you have to go back in and recut it. And so that was a whole lot more challenging than running a console. Of course, we had a couple of different types of consoles too. We had the old, and y'all may have had these too here, the old style consoles with the round knobs that you had to turn up, the old pots, giant pots that you turned up and down. Those were different from the sliders. Everybody's got faders now, kind of like on a mixing board that you would see at a concert. But our old studio, I mean, even the FM studio when I first started, it had these big round knobs, and little switches on it and everything else. It was a different sort of beast.
Ah, yes, round pots. I know them.
Them big round pots. Yep.
Oh, how did you know? I guess you'd have on headphones, right? Where you could hear your feed and all. You would know what you sound. I mean, did y'all always work with, like, I guess you could call them an engineer, or did you just go in the booth and do it yourself?
Yeah, we did it. We did it ourselves. Of course, you have headphones on, so you hear what's going out over the air, and you also have meters. You got meters you got to watch to make sure that you're not pegging or going out too hot, or not loud enough. So there's a sweet spot that you got to keep it in to make sure that everything's going out. And of course, everything's compressed through the the transmitter and as it's going out. So that's what gives you that radio sound. But you got to make sure you can peg the meters and get it too hot, and then it's not going to sound right going out either. So you got to be mindful of that sort of thing.
All right. We're getting Miss Megan here. We're going to take a break for just a minute and play us a video for what we're here for. We're here for the Helping Hands for Cruising, ladies and gentlemen. It's called the Cruise-a-thon. We're trying to raise money for a charity that helps people that maybe due to disabilities or financial issues have never had the opportunity to go on a cruise before. It's a really great, yes, forgive me, I'm trying to get through my stuff here where I can put that on, opportunity for people. Like I said, if you've never been on one, it's hard to explain what it means when you go on that first one. Pretty much everybody I ever know that's been on one, the first one pretty much hooks you. So here is a video for the Helping Hands for Cruising charity.
Have you ever dreamt about taking a cruise on one of them fancy boats, soaking up the beauty and the magic just to free your soul? It's floating on the ocean, just a notion that seems out of reach. One thing on your bucket list is just to go and see the beach. You wanna see the world, but something always holds you back. You got that itching feeling, but your dreams got hijacked. There's lots of people out there that never get to cruise, but Helping Hands is helping making dreams come true.
Helping Hands for Cruising, cruising. Helping Hands for Cruising, cruising. Helping Hands for Cruising, making your dream a reality.
You know you gotta do the things you've only dreamed about. Don't let anything stop you thinking you can't go all out. You can do the things you never thought were possible with Helping Hands to help you get there. Even oceans are no obstacle. You wanna see the world, but something always holds you back. You got that itching feeling, but your dreams got hijacked. There's lots of people out there that never get to cruise, but Helping Hands is helping making dreams come true.
Helping Hands for Cruising, cruising. Helping Hands for Cruising, cruising. Helping Hands for Cruising, making your dream a reality.
So if you ever dreamed about taking a cruise in one of them big old boats, soaking up that sun, feel that breeze, yeah, there is still hope. Don't let the ocean be a notion that is out of reach. Let's get together, help each other, and go see the sea. You wanna see the world, but something always holds you back. You've got that itching feeling, but your dreams got hijacked. There's lots of people out there that never get to cruise, but Helping Hands is helping making dreams come true.
Helping Hands for Cruising, cruising. Helping Hands for Cruising, cruising. Helping Hands for Cruising, making your dream a reality. Helping Hands for Cruising, cruising. Helping Hands for Cruising, cruising. Helping Hands for Cruising, making your dream a reality.
Now, I know we haven't said too much about the people in the chat, but I've got my TV on and I've got it on YouTube, and I've seen Kenneth Oakes, and Kenneth Oakes is the first recipient of help from the Helping Hands for Cruising. So, Kenneth, it's good to see you. And just before we came on here at 6:00 Central Time, I was tuned into the Saturday Stroll kickoff with Cherie's awesome sunsets, and in the chat there, I heard she mentioned James Catanese, and James Catanese is the second recipient of
Yes, sir.
help from Helping Hands for Cruising, and so it benefits real people.
Very, very true. And ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't matter if you can donate only $2, $20, whatever. Every little bit helps. It all adds up. I said there's something magical about a cruise. And I went on my first one a couple years ago in December, and I'm like, oh man, this is going to be terrible. I'm going to be trapped at sea. But once you get out there, you realize, at least me, and this may sound corny, never felt more free in my life than when that ship was out there at sea. No matter what, I mean, there's never a dull moment on the ship unless you want there to be a dull moment to go, they don't tell you about this, but the greatest part about taking a cruise is the cruise nap. I sleep better on a cruise ship than I sleep in a probably $1,000 bed. There's something about that ship when it catches that just perfect little rhythm, rocking and all. Oh man, it is amazing. So, like I said, go check out the Helping Hands for Cruising there. Give what you can. Everything is greatly appreciated. Thank you to all my mods that are in here. Actually, I don't even know who all my mods are other than Miss Meg and, of course, Danny D. She does a wonderful job as well. So, I want to take a minute here instead of really asking y'all a question. I want you to just share with us like memorable moment from your time in radio, or funny moment, or just anything that really comes to mind that you'll always remember about it.
Well, I can give. It's kind of funny to me because it's not necessarily egg on my face, but we were doing a morning show on the station, and we did local affairs, and there was an attorney in town, and what he was looking into as a project was taking our area of where we are in Tennessee, and we're kind of where East Tennessee and Middle Tennessee kind of segue one into the other. You radio rats will get a kick out of that one. But anyway, what this lawyer was trying to do, what he was looking into, was moving us out from Central Time into the Eastern Time zone. Well, we wanted to get him on the show, and they got him on the show. But here's the thing: they cut a promo for this show. But here's the thing: in the event that you can't quite figure it out, and I don't mean to be demeaning when I say that, but when it comes to talking about time here in America, the real issue that a lot of people have is spring forward, fall back, transitioning from standard time to daylight savings time, and that's what they thought that he was working to do. And they wound up learning the hard way when the guy was on the show that no, I'm trying to get us into the Eastern Time zone and not out of spring forward, fall back. So that's, of course, there was one moment that I do have egg on my face, because up on the mountain, I was playing some gospel music for a fella that sponsored it. And I was wanting to play an opposite side of an album after finishing one side. And so I got I put in a cart, and this cart was for a weather line that the station sponsored with their meteorologist. The problem is there was a couple of sponsors on that weather line, and they were mentioned, and the guy got a little upset about it. I don't think he canceled, but he was not happy about that. And what wound up happening a few weeks down the road, there was a DJ meeting that was held, and the station manager was talking about the issues and things about that. And then he mentioned, and be careful, because we had a guy, he played the weather line, and this happened. Is like, I was kind of like Homer Simpson. You've probably seen it if you watch a lot of videos and stuff, where Homer Simpson goes, okay, and then just steps back and fades into the bush. That's kind of what I felt like doing then.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. Go ahead, Mr. Greg.
I was going to say there's a lot. There's quite a few stories, especially being a young dumb teenager and working as a DJ at a radio station. I guess people like to just call in and talk to DJs because you're on the radio. And so there was this I don't know if I even should tell this story, but there was this one woman used to call in all the time. Her name was Kathy from Coolidge. I don't even know what happened. I never met Kathy from Coolidge, but Kathy would call several times a week, and she would just want to talk about her life, what's going on. You're sitting there for 6 hours a night just listening to music. You got nothing else to do. So you entertain people that call. I mean, Kathy was the only one that called. A bunch of people called. So it must have went on for months. Kathy calling, and one night I get a call from Kathy from Coolidge, and I'm talking to Kathy. She goes, "Listen, I can't call you anymore. My husband came in and said he wants to know who I've been talking to every night, and if he finds out, he's going to kill him." And I
Oh
said,
my goodness.
"Yeah, Kathy, you probably shouldn't call the radio station anymore. That probably would be a good idea." But stuff like that happened. But we had this other thing we did too, where I told you before about Shad. Shad, the guy before me. Uh, we had a sponsor that was the bowling alley in Thomasville down here, and they were a big sponsor for his program, and he DJ'd there on Friday nights and stuff. And they had something called the Rock and Bowl. And anyway, they wanted to do some giveaways and stuff on air. And so, everybody does the old caller number 5 thing or whatever. And so me and Shad and I were sitting there, and we were trying to come up with a way. So how can we give away, free bowling games and stuff like this for the Thomasville Bowling Alley? And we came up, let's do on-air bowling. And said, nobody else is doing on-air bowling. Hey, how can you do on-air bowling? Well, our commercial setup was we had 3 cart machines. And when I say cart machines, back then, they were 8-track machines. We had a 3-cart player. So you could load 3 8-tracks in. Those were our commercials. They were looped in 30, 60, and 90 seconds loops. So you would record your commercials on them. And we had some shorter than that. So you could do probably a 15-second or 10-second. And so what we would do is we would load these 3 carts in there, and you would get either a strike, a 7-10 split or something like that, or a gutter ball on your first one. If you got a strike, you automatically won. If you got the 7-10 split, you got to go again. If you got a gutter ball, you got to go again. And then you got one more shot at it, and then you would either pick up the split or you get another gutter ball. And so we had these 3 carts sitting there, and you'd load it up. And during the contest, you got to on-air bowl. You'd pick a number between 1 and 3. We'd switch the carts up randomly. We had all these sound effects going on, and so the people got to on-air bowl. So it was a neat way to let people win prizes. The only thing about it was so random, and people couldn't win it so often that we had to just kind of fake it and give it to them a lot of the time. But they never knew.
It's creative.
That's interesting. Yeah. Did y'all have any say in your playlist, or was you given, like, from your station manager, okay, you're going to play these songs, here's your set list, and I'm sure you had stuff you couldn't play, of course, but I mean, or did you have any kind of freedom with your playlist at all?
As far as up on the mountain in Crossville, we selected like old type of songs. But as far as the modern stuff, you have a rotation. You have you put the records in different orders, and you might have one set where you have very few of them, and those are your really hot ones that you hear more frequently. And then you have fatter stacks that don't rotate quite so much, and so you do the rotation thing, and you have like a clock. Usually it's like a round circle that's got dots of different colors, and those different color dots represent different rotations. That's generally what you find a lot. Although like I said, up in Crossville, you could get your choice of like old stuff that wasn't even on the charts anymore. But generally there's some structure to what you play and what you can't.
Yeah, that's the way ours was. We had a round dial, and it was 1, 2s, and 3s. 1s were hot rotation. Those were the newest releases, and you had to play so many of those an hour in the clock area, the round dial you're talking about. And then you had your 2s and your 3s, and you could pick whatever you wanted to out of the 2s and the 3s. And I think I could really play what I wanted to out of the 1s, but they were in hot rotation, so you kind of had to play so many of those. But you had to play more of the certain sets than you did the others. You had to pick those hot ones. After a while, you got so tired of listening to the same songs over and over. And I did a Southern gospel show on the AM station. I started one on Saturday nights, and I played gospel music on Sunday afternoons, and I just played whatever I wanted to then. My favorites, pretty much.
Okay, well, that kind of nixes my next question because y'all playing gospel music. I'm sure nobody showed up at the station late at night, with some unmarked bills to say, hey, you spin my record a little more, give you a little bonus there. Now, that's what I was talking about. One of the guys on the thumbnail there, Alan Freed. I think that's what kind of ended his career, if you will, as a DJ. They had that, what they call it, payola.
Payola.
Because that cat was getting Alan Freed. He's the man they say invented the term rock and roll and integrated the airwaves, if you will, by playing Chuck Berry on a white station. But come to find out, supposedly, and you know how stories go in the music industry, they're like anywhere else, but he was getting a percentage of Chuck Berry's royalties from Chess Records for playing his records. Which, I mean, I don't know how to look at that. I mean, they agreed to it. They agreed to pay him that. And Chess Records and Chuck Berry still made out like a bandit on his stuff. So, but I think, like I said, that's kind of what ended his career there. Okay, let's see.
The closest I could get to you like that is, I know up in Crossville, there was a woman, and I think she had a son or something that cut a record about special forces in the military, and she would bring copies of the record, make sure we had one to play. So that's probably about the closest that we ever come to that kind of situation like you're talking about there.
Actually, I was just joking about that with y'all, but I just throwing a little radio humor. But I don't know if y'all know this or not, but Sam Phillips released his first record the night he pressed it. Jerry Lee Lewis's first record, "You Win Again." He took it and had it, or I guess they made their own records there at Sun Record Memphis Recording Studios, and took it down to Dewey Phillips, Red Hot and Blue there in Memphis show. He didn't even have Jerry Lee Lewis under contract when he made his record and went and put it out on the radio. It was like a demo or something Jerry had done for him, and Sam loved it, made a record out of it, and put it on the radio. But, I mean, things were totally different back then, too. I'm quite sure about how that stuff worked.
And it was still, I mean, back in the 90s, it was still, we got in CDs from the record labels, and they were pushing who they wanted back then. And even on the Southern Gospel side, you'd get compilation CDs from the latest releases of the artists and all that. And I'm not even sure how they're doing it today with the way everything's set up. It's a whole different world today.
Well, I know some of the stations around here. I had a friend that worked there, and like he said, basically all his stuff's loaded on a computer, his playlist or whatever, and it plays it, and he's just there to make sure nothing goes wrong. Like you was talking about the commercials and all that, they have a computer program that automatically ends the songs, whatever, begins a new song. You was talking about the intros and timing and all that. They do all of it with computer now, which
whenever I left, go ahead. I'm sorry, Paul.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, when I left, the system that we installed, it was a system that they were running all over the country, and the DJ, wherever he was sitting at, couldn't tell you where he was at, but he literally recorded our station name. And he was a live DJ, but he had our station name along with probably, ever how many others they were affiliated with. And he would be talking just like normal. And I'm sure he hit a button somewhere, and in his voice, it would say the station name wherever that was being broadcast. So it sounded like he was sitting there, at our radio station. You couldn't tell it. You absolutely couldn't tell it, but it played the music was in the computer. The commercials were loaded into the computer, and he literally was just, talking just like we would do ourselves. Like I said, as you were listening along, he would say WSLE FM Whistle 102, just like I had done for, all that time. But as he was saying that, he was saying whatever station down the road, places. It was a weird concept, but I'm sure they made a ton of money doing it that way and saved overhead. Didn't have to have DJs sitting around, around the clock at every station. So,
Well, I noticed that doing across country, I'd hear the same person. It seemed like the exact same voice on every radio station for stuff like that. I'm like, huh? Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Aaron.
Yeah, that's kind of like I like to say, it's a combination of technology and business that made an offer that small market radio just could not refuse, because like I said, I trained my replacement. My replacement was a Digilink by Arrakis Systems. It was a digital audio controller. It's a Robo DJ box. And for around the price that you would pay for one DJ to come to be in the station, do a shift a day for a week, you could buy this box, and this box would DJ your radio station 24/7, 365, never get sick, never get drunk the night before and be incapable of doing the show, not day drink and decide that today is the day we're going to tell everybody how we feel. No ego trips, no, everything that's people-y about the DJ business has been taken out by and large. And
that's sad. Very sad.
And then on the other hand, on the business side, is you have providers of satellite radio. And when I say satellite radio, I'm not talking about Sirius or XM. I'm talking about broadcast networks. And they're itching to get their signal down from the bird onto radio waves on the surface. And I don't know if they still do it this way, but they would, if you would sign up and essentially pinky swear, hope to die, stick a hot poker in your eye, that you would play a certain number of spots that come down off of the satellite, then you're good to go. And they might even send you the box that you need to pull the signal off of the bird. Now, you'll need a satellite dish to get the signal, but then again, your radio station, you probably got that took care of already. So it's just a matter of just getting it all wired up, teaching your robo DJ how the radio show works, and getting digital sound onto your hard drive there with the digital box to play for spots and liners and ID, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And essentially you've got radio largely untouched by human hands, or at least on the local side. And that's, like I said, it's like the offer that small market radio just couldn't refuse.
And the consumer doesn't even know it. I mean, they're listening. They have no clue that person on the other end's not even in their local radio station anymore.
About the only hint that you might have would be like if you hear Wiz Radio, blah 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 blah, and then the song that starts under it is a cold opening, and you got them both colliding at the same time. That's a clue, but a lot of times it sounds like live and local radio, or as close to live and local radio as you can get. And that is kind of sad.
I miss the days of the authentic DJ, especially in morning times. I drive early in the mornings, and normally I catch something on YouTube. There's always somebody live on YouTube. I like to ease into my day. And these people, you catch them first thing in the morning, and they're 120 octane at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. And there'd be 3 or 4 of them just yapping back and forth. I can't stand that. But gentlemen, that pretty much ends all my questions. I appreciate y'all taking time out of your schedules to come up here. I'd like to thank everybody that came in to chat. Thank y'all for supporting us. Once again, we have the one and only AA, Mr. A. Ron Smith, with the golden vocal cords. And at bottom, we have the one and only Mr. Greg Welch of SCT Adventures on Friday nights, the Friday night wind down. What we're going to do is we're going to play the, let me get back over here. We're going to do this Helping Hands for Cruising video one more time. And if we could get either the Down Under Cruisers or Miss Meg, if you would come up, if you could give us a little quick recap on the totals for donations and all. And here is the Helping Hands for Cruising video.
Have you ever dreamt about taking a cruise on one of them fancy boats, soaking up the beauty and the magic just to free your soul? It's floating on the ocean, just a notion that seems out of reach. One thing on your bucket list is just to go and see the beach. You wanna see the world, but something always holds you back. You got that itching feeling, but your dreams got hijacked. There's lots of people out there that never get to cruise, but Helping Hands is helping making dreams come true.
Helping Hands for Cruising, cruising. Helping Hands for Cruising, cruising. Helping Hands for Cruising, making your dream a reality.
You know you gotta do the things you've only dreamed about. Don't let anything stop you thinking you can't go all out. You can do the things you never thought were possible with Helping Hands to help you get there. Even oceans are no obstacle. You wanna see the world, but something always holds you back. You got that itching feeling, but your dreams got hijacked. There's lots of people out there that never get to cruise, but Helping Hands is helping making dreams come true.
Helping Hands for Cruising, cruising. Helping Hands for Cruising, cruising. Helping Hands for Cruising, making your dream a reality.
So if you ever dreamed about taking a cruise in one of them big old boats, soaking up that sun, feel that breeze, yeah, there is still hope. Don't let the ocean be a notion that is out of reach. Let's get together, help each other, and go see the sea. You wanna see the world, but something always holds you back. You've got that itching feeling, but your dreams got hijacked. There's lots of people out there that never get to cruise, but Helping Hands is helping making dreams come true.
Helping Hands for Cruising, cruising. Helping Hands for Cruising, cruising. Helping Hands for Cruising, making your dream a reality. Helping Hands for Cruising, cruising. Helping Hands for Cruising, cruising. Helping Hands for Cruising, making your dream a reality.
All right.
Gentlemen, once again, thank y'all for showing up. Thank you to our distinguished guests, Mr. A. Ron, Aaron Smith, Mr. Greg Welch. Next up, y'all, we have Kicking It Country. So we want to raid them, go show them some support. Thank y'all for stopping by. Hey, go ahead. If y'all have anything, last thing you'd like to add in, please go ahead.
One thing I forgot to say, my friend Barry Brain reached out to me this morning and said that he wanted to get in on some Helping Hands for Cruising action today. And he said that if someone wanted to donate, and I guess I don't know how they would do it. I guess they would let them know when they donated. But the one that donates the most, if they're interested and they want to donate to find out who he is, the person that donates the most, he will reveal himself. Now, I don't know what he meant by that. I mean, he's only a brain, so I don't know how much of himself he can reveal, but he said he would reveal himself to the highest bidder that was curious who his real identity is. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And I forgot to mention it through the show, but anyway.
Oh my goodness. A pre-booze cruise reveal of Barry Brain?
That's
Wow.
That's what he said. I'm just relaying the information.
Okay.
Well, thank you for sharing. Hey, there's your motivation right there, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, we got to get out of here. Next up is Kicking It Country. So I'm sure somebody has dropped the link, but go check them out. It's sure to be a good time. Always a good time with them. Good family fun over there. And we will see y'all next time. Thank y'all for showing up. Peace out. Word to you, mammy. Thank you, gentlemen.
Appreciate it.